He's coming. Please help me. The scream broke the normal open. The bell jingled cheerfully, an almost absurd sound in such a tense moment. He stormed inside. He was tall and muscular, maybe in his late 30s, wearing a stained t-shirt and dark jeans. His jaw moved furiously like he was chewing rage. His eyes locked on Tank first, then the girl behind him. "There you are," he snapped. "Come here right now." The girl whimpered and pressed back even harder. Tank didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stepped in front of her and looked the man in the eye. "You need to take a step back." The man scoffed. "She's my daughter. This is none of your business." Tank shook his head once. "She ran in here, screaming for help. That makes it everyone's business." The man's face flushed crimson veins rising along his neck. "You don't know what she did." Tank didn't blink. "I don't care. No child shows up looking like this unless something is very, very wrong." People in the gas station watched with silent dread. A mother clutched her young son. An old man holding a lottery ticket slowly lowered himself toward the ground, trying to stay out of sight. Someone near the snacks whispered, "This is bad." The man stepped closer to Tank. Too close. One of the other bikers, a muscular bald man named Diesel, shifted to Tank's side. Another moved toward the back exit, ensuring the girl couldn't be cornered. The man jabbed a finger toward Tank's chest. "Move. I'm taking her home." Tank leaned down slightly, not threatening but firm. "No, nobody touches her until the police get here." The man's eyes flickered and something in them changed. Panic, desperation, and then something darker. Without warning, he spun around and walked quickly back toward his truck. Hawk's voice cut through the silence. "He's going for something." Every biker moved at once, like a trained unit, not a random motorcycle club stopping for fuel. Customers ducked behind shelves. Someone screamed. The girl clutched her arms around herself and whispered, "He's going to hurt everyone. He always does." Tank looked down at her, not with fear, but with a quiet, powerful promise. "Not today." Outside, the truck door yanked open. The bikers braced. The nightmare wasn't over. It had just begun. The pickup screeched into the parking lot, gravel spraying in every direction like shrapnel. The tired fluorescent lights above the pumps flickered as the truck skidded to a halt, sending a wave of dust into the air. Before the vehicle had fully stopped, the driver's door flew open and a furious man jumped out. He was big, broad-shouldered, and red-faced. Not from the heat, but from a burning, unfiltered rage. His jaw clenched so tight a muscle twitched along the side of his cheek. His eyes were sharp and mean, like a predator closing in on prey. The man slammed the truck door with such force that the windows of the gas station rattled, startling everyone inside. Then he started marching toward the entrance, every stomp radiating fury. As he pushed through the automatic doors, his voice exploded through the store. "Where's she?" "She's my daughter. She needs to learn her lesson." Customers froze in the middle of moving. A mother, clutching a candy bar to her chest, slowly pulled her young son behind her. A man reaching for a soda froze with the fridge door still open. Even the clerk behind the counter stopped breathing for a moment. Only Tank moved. The towering biker stepped forward, boots thudding on the tile. His shoulders rolled back, and he filled the entrance like a brick wall that had suddenly come alive. The furious man tried to shove past, expecting others to scatter in fear. But Tank didn't move, not even a millimeter. "You need to step back," Tank said, voice low and steady. He didn't raise his tone. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to make the clerk swallow hard. The man glared up into Tank's stern, controlled face. "Who the hell are you?" he spat. "That's my kid in there." Tank didn't blink. "She ran in here, terrified. That means nobody's going near her until the police get here." For a moment, the man's face twisted like something rotten had crawled out from under his skin. Sweat gathered at his temples. Not panic, but anger. "You don't understand," he shouted, voice cracking as people backed away from the entrance. "She's lying behind Tank." The little girl sat trembling on a cracked waiting bench, knees drawn to her chest. Blaze, the female biker with sharp eyes and copper hair tied in a high braid, knelt beside her with surprising gentleness. Blaze had seen kids scare before. She'd seen fear in 100 forms. But the look in this little girl's eyes, the complete bone-deep terror, hit harder than any knife could. "Are you hurt?" Blaze asked quietly, checking the scrapes on the girl's arms. The girl swallowed hard and whispered, voice barely audible, "He's not my dad. He's the guy who took me." Tank heard that. His jaw tightened so hard the veins in his neck stood out. Suddenly, everything snapped into perfect focus. This wasn't a custody dispute. This wasn't a heated parent argument. This was a man who had taken a child, and now he had chased her across town. Tank's voice dropped half an octave. "Blaze, keep her close." Blaze nodded without even looking up. The other customers looked around the store in total shock. Some covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in disbelief. One elderly gentleman whispered, "Dear God." But the bikers didn't panic. They moved. Hawk and Diesel stepped to Tank's sides, forming a human wall at the entrance. Two more bikers moved toward the windows, watching from inside to make sure the man didn't try circling around. The last man, Brick, quietly walked toward the back exit in case the threat became serious. These weren't random bikers on a fuel stop. They were a trained unit. They had rules, codes. They had each other's backs. But more importantly, they protected the innocent. The man outside finally realized that this wasn't a group of customers who would scatter in fear. These men and women weren't intimidated. They weren't moving aside. They weren't even raising their voices. He stepped back slowly, eyes darting from one biker to the next, his lips pressed into a thin line. Frustration turning into something darker, something calculating. Tank watched closely. The man looked toward his truck. Every biker saw the change in his face, the subtle shift of his weight, the sudden drop of his shoulders. He was about to do something stupid. Hawk spoke quietly under his breath. "He's thinking about a weapon." Tank didn't answer. He didn't need to. Outside, the man ripped open the truck door again. His hands disappeared behind the seat, and his whole body leaned into the cab. Inside the store, tension rose instantly. The mother near the candy aisle gasped and pulled her son down low behind a display of gum and mints. The clerk ducked below the counter, fumbling with the police dispatch operator on the phone. Someone near the snack rack whispered to no one in particular, "Please let the cops get here fast." Tank slid his right foot back, grounding his balance. If that man came out with something dangerous, lives were on the line. Blaze wrapped an arm around the girl and gently guided her farther behind the coffee station, shielding her from view. The girl sobbed softly, clutching Blaze's leather vest like a child, clinging to a life preserver in a storm. "He took me. He kept me in a shed. I escaped. I tried to run. He said he'd kill me if I didn't listen." Blaze tightened her arms around her. "You're safe now. Nobody's touching you again." Tank heard that, too. Every word etched another line into his expression. Anger, yes, but also a powerful resolve. The kind of anger that wasn't wild or emotional, but controlled, focused. The kind that made dangerous men very, very calm. Outside, the man finally emerged from the truck. He was holding something, a tire iron. He slammed the truck door shut with the weapon already raised. Breathing heavily, shoulders shaking with adrenaline and furious pride. Tank stared at him. The fight was coming, and the bikers were ready. The predator believed he was coming for a scared child. Instead, he had walked into a wall of people who would die before they let him touch her. The game had officially changed. One of the bikers posted at the window suddenly leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "He's reaching for something," he warned, voice sharp and urgent. Tank didn't react with panic. He reacted with command. His voice dropped into that low, authoritative tone that instantly told everyone he'd taken control. "Everyone get behind the counter." Tank ordered. "Clerk, lock the back door now." Nobody hesitated. Adrenaline hit like electricity. Customers dove behind coolers and shelving displays. A father yanked his teenage daughter behind a rack of chips. The clerk scrambled around the lottery display, hands trembling as he slapped the metal lock into place on the back door. Meanwhile, outside, the abductor rummaged aggressively behind the driver's seat of his truck. Something metal scraped against the interior. His body shifted as he grabbed hold of something, and then he emerged, not with a gun, but with a tire iron. His knuckles were white from gripping it too tightly. His eyes glowed with an enraged madness that made even the bikers pause. Not with fear, but with understanding. This man wasn't coming to talk. He was coming to hurt someone. He stomped toward the entrance, raising the tire iron like a weapon of war. Inside, Tank rolled his shoulders and cracked his knuckles. A slow, methodical sound that echoed more powerfully than a threat. "You bring that inside," he warned, "and you won't leave standing." The man scoffed angrily. "You think you can stop me?" He barked. "You think any of you can? She's mine." Then he swung the tire iron through the air aggressively like a sword cutting through invisible opponents. "You can't stop me," he screamed, voice shrill and shaking with fury. Tank didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't have to, because while the man focused on Tank, two other bikers moved like shadows. Diesel and Hawk burst out from the side of the building, using the element of surprise and the full force of their combined momentum. Before the man could swing again, they grabbed his arms, one from each side, and slammed him face down against the steel hood of his truck. The tire iron slipped from his hand and clattered to the pavement with a sharp metallic clang that seemed to make the entire world fall silent. The man shrieked, "Let go! Let go of me! She's mine!" Spit flew from his mouth as he struggled, kicking and thrashing like an animal caught in a trap. But he was trapped, and not just physically. Tank stepped forward with deadly calm, blocking out the sound of the man's screaming tantrum. Gravel crunched beneath his heavy boots as he came to a stop beside him. The abductor's cheek was mashed against the truck hood, breath fogging the cold metal. Tank leaned down inches from the man's ear. "She's nobody's property," he said, voice low as thunder. "And your day just got a whole lot worse." The man froze, not because he had suddenly become obedient, but because he finally realized these people weren't scared of him. They were ready to end him. Inside the gas station, the little girl, unable to restrain her curiosity, peeked through the window from behind the coffee station. Her small fingers curled along the glass as she watched the man struggling outside. Her voice came out in a trembling whisper, a desperate attempt at defiance, lifting his head from the hood and rasping, "You're all going to regret this. She needs me." Tank leaned closer and placed one massive hand on the back of his shoulder, pressing him down again, not violently, but firmly. "No," Tank said, "she needs safety, and this is where it starts." Hawk, still pinning the abductor's arm, looked up at Tank. "Cops on the way." Tank nodded once. Just bought himself a one-way ticket someplace. Her voice barely emerged as a whisper. She nodded. Then, trembling violently, she forced out the words. "He took me from my yard. He said he'd hurt me if I didn't stay quiet." Her voice crumbled into sobs. Blaze pulled her gently into her vest, rubbing the girl's back in slow, soothing circles. The officer stood and lifted one hand. "That's enough." His voice had changed. Not gentle anymore, but tight with controlled anger. Immediately, two officers holstered their weapons and moved to the man still pinned against the truck by Diesel and Hawk. They snapped handcuffs around his wrists with the precision of people who had done this hundreds of times. The predator instantly exploded into a panicked string of excuses and lies. "She's lying. She's lying," he shouted, voice pitching upward in rage. "They attacked me. I was just getting my daughter. These thugs jumped me." The sergeant didn't react. He merely motioned to one of his officers. "Search the vehicle." The officer jogged over and looked inside the truck. He was only searching for a moment before he stepped back, face drained of color. "Sergeant," he said loudly, "you're going to want to see this." The sergeant walked over, glanced into the truck, and froze for half a second. Just enough time to tell everyone he did not like what he saw. Zip ties, duct tape, a hunting knife with a 6-inch fixed blade, a crudely folded map with a girl's street circled in thick black marker. The sergeant turned back toward the suspect, expression darkening into something dangerous. "If she's lying," he asked coldly, "why do you have zip ties, duct tape, and a hunting knife in your truck?" The man's face went pale. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His bravado disappeared like smoke in wind. One of the bikers let out a low whistle. "Looks like someone just played himself," Hawk muttered under his breath. Another customer inside the gas station, an older woman who had been hiding behind a snack display, made the sign of the cross. The sergeant nodded to his officers. "Get him in the car." The man jerked his head toward Tank and spat. This is your fault. You did this. Tank didn't even blink. You chased a child. Everything after that is on you. The officers dragged the suspect toward the squad car. He fought the whole way, not with strength, but with desperation, screaming every excuse he could think of. I was just trying to discipline her. She belongs with me. You don't understand. They don't know anything. But nobody listened. The officers shoved him into the back seat of the cruiser, slammed the door, and the screaming was suddenly muffled by glass and steel. Meanwhile, the sergeant went back to the little girl. His voice softened again. Sweetheart, can you tell us your mom or dad's name? The girl sniffled, wiping her nose with a shaking hand. My mom. She doesn't know where I am. I tried to scream, but nobody heard me. The sergeant nodded slowly, jaw clenched. He stepped aside and spoke into his radio. Dispatch, we have a confirmed child abduction victim. Request immediate contact with the mother. Check for any recently filed missing children reports. It took less than a minute. The radio crackled back. Confirmed. Mother reported her missing earlier this morning. She's already en route to your location. Blaze and the girl both exhaled with relief. Tank finally let his shoulders drop half an inch. His version of a sigh. Inside the gas station, silence settled again. Customers shaken but safe began emerging from hiding spots. From behind racks of chips, down low behind the counter, behind refrigerators and displays, people looked at Tank and the bikers with something close to disbelief. Most of them had probably crossed the street to avoid men like these in the past. Now, they realized something. They weren't monsters. They had been the only ones willing to confront one. Outside, the second squad car door slammed as the officers finished securing the suspect. The sergeant walked over to Tank, stopping just a few feet away. I'm about to say, he admitted, you and your crew saved that kid's life. Tank didn't smile. He never showed off. He simply nodded. We were in the right place at the right time. The sergeant extended his hand. Tank shook it, rough palm meeting uniform glove. Finally, Tank walked to the cruiser holding the abductor. He leaned down, planting one hand casually on the roof as he spoke through the window gaps. You picked the wrong gas station, he said quietly. Before the man could reply, the officer shut the door fully, sealing him inside. The cruiser rolled away, lights still flashing, tires crunching over broken gravel. Behind it, the entire gas station exhaled in one long collective breath, like a building that had been pulled away. He offered a small, rare smile. Hey, he said quietly. Every kid deserves to feel safe. We just happened to be here when she needed someone. The woman tried to wipe her tears away, but it was useless. New ones kept coming, as if her body was finally releasing every hour of fear she'd been holding in. How can I ever repay you? She asked. Her voice shook, not with fear now, but with the impossible weight of gratefulness no words could measure. Blaze stepped forward, leaning her elbow casually on Tank's shoulder with a grin, because she knew the moment didn't need heavy answers. Just hug your kid a little longer tonight, she said with a wink. The mother laughed, a small, broken, relieved laugh, and hugged her daughter again. The girl